Well, hello and welcome to the We All Follow the Forest podcast. Now, this is the first episode. If you're only just listening now, whenever it may be, whether it's the week after it's released, whether it's on the day, please make sure you get involved. Like the new podcast, follow us on all of our channels, and do your thing. I don't know what it is. Subscribe on YouTube if you can. We'll be releasing more episodes every week from Wednesday at 3 p.m. And also I'll be streaming as well on Sundays at 8 p.m. with the odd exception. So what is We All Follow the Forest? Now, this is obviously the first episode, so it's quite odd for me because I'm usually, 20 episodes in for a podcast. I've done podcasts before where you're so far in, you kind of can't remember the start, but this is the very first episode. So I'll say this new podcast is all talking about Nottingham Forest. The latest news. We tend not to look too much into matches because we really do that on streams, which is on this YouTube channel as well. So if you're looking to have more pre-match reviews, post-match reviews, head to the streams. They'll be at various times throughout the week, which I'll announce on my community page. But this podcast will cover more updates like injuries or transfer news, or perhaps a look at the tactics of a game, or looking ahead a little bit. And we will talk about future fixtures, but in this episode, more to do with how transfers will affect those fixtures. So the talking points today: Brennan Johnson, Anthony Elanga, Taiwo Awoniyi, and the summer transfer window. Now, I thought every week, who are we going to have on the podcast? Are we going to have a permanent a permanent panel? I wasn't too sure. And I thought, let's get a different Forest fan on every week and then eventually kind of making a panel. But for now, a different Forest fan every week. This time starting with my good friend Megaphone Man. Lee, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all good. Excited to be, finally discussing Forest. We've been saying that we're going to do this for a while, but it's kind of come to fruition in the last couple of weeks. So,
Long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Now, it's obviously the international break. So at the time of recording this, we're both having a little break from football, which sometimes is nice. But after a win at Stamford Bridge, you kind of don't want it to stop. So briefly, how are you feeling after that win just a week or two ago?
I feel good, and to be honest, it's a shame the international breaks come because we were just getting going, weren't we? We had a good performance at Arsenal. We had them rattled last 20 minutes, didn't we? And then at United, we was harshly done over. It never seems to go in your favour at United, does it? So we deserve something out of that game. So then to get that win at Chelsea, it's definitely been coming, and we deserved it. Okay, they had possession, but it means nothing. We had more shots on target for all their possession. And most of that was, like they say, was passing it around the back. They never actually really created anything, did they? So I feel good, and I'm a bit annoyed with this international break. It bores the life out of me. And I just can't wait for us to get back into it.
We're a little bit lucky that we've got the Rugby World Cup. I don't know if you guys watch rugby, but if you do, let me know. I like it. I don't think it's too bad. To be honest, it's nice to kind of fill the time with, and it is quite fun as well. But talking Forest, as you say, it was a good win. I do think we deserved it. It wasn't the most pleasing game on the eyes because despite the win, I think everybody does put on the rose-tinted spectacles after the game because it's like, right, we've just won. It doesn't matter. We only won once away last season and we're only 4 games in and we've already won away. So, we're not doing bad at all. We've not gone a game without scoring throughout all these first Premier League fixtures. Obviously, in the Cup, we didn't score against Burnley, but we didn't have our best team out. We've not lost by more than 1 goal, and we've played Arsenal and Manchester United in that time. And as you say, United game was really harsh. I think we should have at least got a point, but the officiating was awful. And as for Arsenal, we weren't brave enough at the right times, I don't think. And I think we were brave at a good time because obviously we scored, but could we have been a little bit braver earlier and tried to go for it a little bit more earlier? But we're saying this in hindsight. I think that Steve Cooper's thoughts were more, let's not invite more pressure and let's just kind of be careful and not concede anymore and then go for it last minute. But, tactically, people were going to complain and did complain actually when looking at the team to face Chelsea because they saw the likes of Joe Worrell in there, Scott McKenna in there. And, they kind of saw that back 3 or back 5 with the wing backs, etc., as a bit of a weak point and something that they were hoping to move away with given the transfers. But But actually, I thought it worked quite well. Do you think that tactic is something that Steve Cooper might adapt for some of the bigger teams, if you will?
Yeah, it's about keeping it tight at the back, isn't it? I think that's what he's trying to do, not give too much away. Obviously, we know teams like Man City, Chelsea, all the big clubs, well, you consider them big clubs, they're going to have the majority of possession, especially at home. I think the positive we can take from it is that wasn't even our first 11, really, was it? Because we've had Brennan go out, so we didn't have Brennan Johnson. So technically, at the time, we were slightly weaker. We've got all these transfers to come in. Don't forget, Cooper's probably not playing the tactics that he wants to play. What we will do, and it won't be instant, but we will start seeing the way Cooper wants to play with Sangari in there, Dominguez. Hopefully, we will have a bit more possession. And I think that's what he's going to try and do and make us that bit more attacking, because now we've got the strength in depth, so to speak. So, he's known for playing the low block, especially when he's trying to get something out of a game away from home. But there was times we were attacking and we created the better chances. Let's be honest. Bar the Jackson one, we created the better chances. So can't complain too much, can we?
No, and you mentioned a name there, Brennan Johnson, and that was it'd be the first, I think that was the first game without him.
Yeah.
So he left, I think it was around £47 million or around that kind of figure. He joins Tottenham Hotspur, playing under Ange Postecoglou now, or he will be after the international break. Very good manager, in my opinion, who I think will really use him well. Obviously, it's devastating to lose him because I really liked him, and obviously, last season, 10 goals, and without the goals that he scored, I think there was 6 goals I highlighted, or was it 5? I can't remember. There was the goal he scored at Everton, and the 2 at Leicester, and the 1 at Leeds, or against Leeds. And those goals got us 7 points.
Yep.
Those 7 points kept us up, right? And you could say the same for Taiwo's goals, absolutely. So for me, it's obviously devastating, and you're losing a big source of goals. But at the same time, we weren't using him to the best of our abilities, and there was clearly,
down to playing the low block.
Yeah, potentially down to that. Yeah,
he was literally an outlet, wasn't he? If the ball got hoofed up, hoof it to Brennan, let him run with it, take the pressure off. So
yeah, and you're not playing him as a right winger where he really plays better. You're playing him as a striker, and realistically, I don't think that suited him very well. I don't think that Spurs will play him like that either. And I think Ange knows kind of that is where his weaknesses lie. But he'll still get you goals in that position, but it's just not his best. And you could kind of tell at Arsenal that his confidence was knocked a little bit, when he had that golden opportunity and, skied it. But, at the end of the day, it's a good move for him because Spurs will treasure him, and I think he'll do really well. And I know a lot of Forest fans are saying, oh, they don't think he will, but you've got. I want to back him. He's started with us. He's provided a lot of financial security for us as well, which is, I suppose, another bonus. And through that financial security, you brought in players like Sangari and Dominguez, and you could also say probably Elanga because they knew and they saw it coming. So, how would you say the impact of Brennan Johnson leaving is going to affect Forest? And also, what do you think is going to be the importance of Anthony Elanga? How important do you think Anthony Elanga is going to be with his absence?
In terms of losing Brennan, it's a balancing act, isn't it? Because we had to balance the FFP, didn't we? Technically, his sale has allowed us to strengthen the squad and have strength in depth. Now, when you think about it, it's a trade-off between one player, Brennan Johnson, who has done a lot for us, and I wish him all the best. I genuinely do, because I like Brennan. He's got the goals, he's got the assists. What was it? 8 goals, 3 assists, or something last season. But when you consider what we've bought in due to his sale, like you say, Sangare, you've got Elanga, you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who should, when fully fit, slot into the role Brennan was playing. You've got Dominguez. Obviously, with more possession, you're going to see those attacking players. And I think, obviously, Origi as well. I think with the quality we've brought in, it should, and I say this, it should generate more goals. Obviously, you can't say it until you see it, but in theory, you'd like to think that one player going out and the quality we've brought in outweighs it, if that makes sense. So in terms of Elanga, he's devastating, isn't he? You know, his pace. Again, he's that outlet ball, isn't it? But already we're seeing signs of him linking up with Taiwo. Taiwo looks fit, he looks strong. Having Elanga to pass the ball to and vice versa and interchanging, it's devastating for opposition, isn't it? And we've seen it. Arsenal, we've seen it. Man U, you know, fantastic. And again at Chelsea, Elanga's goal, well taken goal. I expect him to step up with a few goals this season. So yeah, it's good. I think it's positive. No one likes to lose one of their favourite players, do they? But when you offset what's come in for the sake of losing Brennan Johnson and maybe say Surridge for the 5 million, we can't really complain, can we? I think our side's a stronger side than 11, or it will be, and a stronger squad in terms of depth as well from the bench. Compared to losing Brennan. Like I say, I wish him all the best, and I really like Brennan. And, you know, I hope he does do well. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's a big move for him. There's a lot of expectation on him as well, being at Spurs, you know, because Spurs are, I think you should be expecting them to push higher on this year. You know, obviously they lost Harry Kane, but they've still been playing really well, and they've brought in some really good players, you know, James Maddison, and they're bringing in a new centre-back, you know, a young guy. So, you know, Ange likes recruiting younger players. You know, and he's got a proven track record of bringing in good young players that will turn into stars for their clubs. And he did it at Celtic. He's done it before. And, you know, it's an exciting move for him. But as you say, we've got Anthony Elanga now, who's proven Premier League, by the way, proven Premier League. He's played in the Premier League for a few years now. He's played in the Champions League. He's played in the Europa League. He's played next to Cristiano Ronaldo. He's been at United's, you know, helm at their worst when Ralph Rangnick was in control, and they weren't doing particularly great, and he was doing good then, you know, and he's done so before. He's a good player, a proven player, and he's got a lot of potential still because he's only young. So 47 million for Brennan Johnson and 15 million for Anthony Elanga in. So what's that net spend of, I don't know, maybe
I think the whole net spend is about 50 million altogether, isn't it?
Around 50 million altogether, but just for the Elanga and Johnson, it'd be what, 32 million pound. That's like profit.
Profit, yeah, technically, yeah.
So that's, and for 32 million pound profit, you've got a player that's already got a goal and already got an assist. So he's got 2 goal contributions in 4 games so far. And as I say, you've got Taiwo, who's arguably one of the Premier League's best strikers at the moment. In fact, if he's not the best so far this season.
I'd call him the new Drogba because that's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Drogba, that finisher, although I'd say he's got more pace. I just think you give him the ball, he's clinical. You know, he probably, I don't know, 1 or 2 goals in every 3 or 4 shots. He's going to do it. If you give him the chances, he's going to score, isn't he?
Because the thing that always worried me was when he arrived, he didn't look like he could hit a ball. You know, when we went to watch Union Berlin, you remember this?
Yeah.
That game, I looked at my friends around me and I looked at the journalists around me and I was like, you know, what have you sold us here, boys? You know, like what's
a little lost, didn't it? But
yeah, and
that was his first game, wasn't it? And I think he was overwhelmed with going to his old club, and they presented him with a shirt and everything else. So I don't think he really wanted to do much against them, to be honest with you. That's how it looked to me. And it was pre-season.
He looked like a big confidence issue, and I think at that time, I think that the whole team had a confidence problem. Brendan had a confidence problem at the start of the season. Taiwo clearly had a confidence problem at the start of the season. You know, Joe Worrell had a confidence problem for most of last season, but especially at the start. You know, so the turning point for me was probably maybe the World Cup for a lot of players, beating Crystal Palace at home, and then, you know, having the international break. And obviously you saw the best of Brennan probably around the New Year kind of time. He was absolutely brilliant. He was fantastic. And then he obviously struggled again for form after that and came back. But for Taiwo, obviously the massive injury that he had that kept him out for 3 months or whatever, we all thought he's just been playing on the left wing. He looks okay, but he doesn't look anything spectacular. He doesn't look like he's going to score that many goals. He comes back, Cooper plays him as a striker, and he goes and saves you from relegation. So
that's where he's been playing from the start, though, isn't it? Let's be honest. Yeah. I don't know why he kept getting shoved out on the wing. You know,
was he confident enough?
Sometimes his tactics are questionable, aren't they? But, you know, I'll still support what he does.
Yeah, my question would be, though, did Cooper see that he wasn't confident enough and kind of think, do I just have to try out something different here? And I agree with you, because I do think he should have been a striker, and playing him left wing or anywhere around that didn't really make sense to me.
Thing
But
is, he just needed time, didn't he? Because he don't forget he had a niggly injury before that, didn't he? Before he got his big one, and he was kind of in and out, wasn't he? Yeah, and then obviously he got the big one. But look at him; he's come back firing, and I don't know where it's come from, but I'm happy. Like, I always knew he'd got that potential in him. I think part of it's down to the service he was getting as well. Because let's be
yeah.
honest, it wasn't great, was it?
Well, he's created a lot of goals, though, and this is the thing, because we talk about service, and he's had good service so far, but Taiwo's created a lot of his own goals. I mean, the one at Arsenal that was spectacular when he ran from the box, ran
Yeah.
all the way through Arsenal's defence, gave the ball to Elanga, did that, and then he got the ball back off Elanga. He's creating goals. So not only is he getting into the right places, which is what you have to demand from a number 9, because people often say, yeah, but Haaland doesn't create many goals. He's not a creative player, but he's a number 9. What do you want from a number 9? Someone that creates a lot of goals, does all your flicks in this, or do you want someone that is in the right place, near on 99% of the time, and will get you 1, 2, 3 goals a game, pretty much guaranteed? That's what Haaland does. And I do feel that Taiwo's starting to do the same, but also he's creating goals. He's fast. He's got a lot to his game.
But you look at Taiwo's early goals that he scored for us. Yeah, they weren't great. They were hitting his shin and going in, or hitting him and going in. He still had to be in the right place. So he was always in the right place to make it happen, wasn't it? The one against Liverpool where he hit it, they saved it, then he got the rebound. He was there. You know what I mean? The one against West Ham, hit his shin and went in. Oh, you only won because it hit him. He didn't know much about it. Well, he did, because he put himself in the right place. He knew exactly where to be. That's natural. You can't teach that. You've either got it or you haven't. He is a natural striker. Get him the ball. He's going to score. He's one of the best in the league. All the people that was calling him a flop, they want Surridge in because Surridge is better than him. Sometimes you've got to be patient. It's took him time to adjust again, hasn't it? Don't forget that German league is a bit, the standard's not quite as high. And for a guy that was only 7 goals behind Haaland for that season, we signed him. And then obviously Haaland went to Man City. He was only 7 goals behind him. It shows he's got something. Sometimes they just need time to adjust, and look at him. He's off to a flyer. He didn't score against Chelsea, but he set it up, as you said. His all-round game just seems better. He seems fitter. He seems sharper. He's quicker. He just seems fit. I don't think he was fully fit when we got him last season.
Maybe not. Maybe not. And the best thing about it is we can talk about last season from a point of view where we stayed up. We're still in that league now, and we don't live with any regrets and say, Taiwo just didn't do it last season. Will he ever do it for Forest if we wasted £20 million? And there was more hype around, others signing than there was, for Taiwo. It's we were at a point where the only real striker we had was Chris Wood with Taiwo's injury. And then we had Sam Surridge and Andre Ayew. And you kind of look back and you go, oh my goodness, the fact that Taiwo scored more in the last, 4 games than all of them did.
And we still
I'm not going to blame Sam. I'm not going to blame Sam.
Strike force, we managed to stay up.
Yeah, exactly. But the strike force that kept us up really is Taiwo.
Yeah.
That's the strike force that the other names for me irrelevant. The strike force that kept us up in that moment with Taiwo. And I think, Sam could have been given more chances, but that's happened now. Obviously Chris Wood, he just wasn't in the right place last year, and I don't think he ever will be.
He wasn't fit enough either, was he? He'd had literally limited game time.
Yeah. And obviously the injury that kept him out for the season as well at the end was a big thing for him. But Andre Ayew goes without saying.
Chris Wood's still not the answer, but he's a good last 20-minute man. Chuck him on. Taiwo's tired or someone else is tired. Bang him on. Let him create a bit of chaos in the box,
Well, it's exciting to see that we've actually got a striker that's going to get you 10 goals a season, because Taiwo will, by the way. He's got 4 goal contributions.
He can hit 20 quite easy. He is that 20-goal season man. I'm saying that now. If he stays injury-free, stays fit, don't forget now the pressure's not all on him anymore. You have got Wood who looks fitter, looks a bit better. You've got Origi who's come in. You've got Hudson-Odoi. You've got Elanga. All of a sudden, you've even got Gibbs White. Hopefully he can step up with a few. All of a sudden, we've got options everywhere rather than just Taiwo and Johnson. You know what I mean? So maybe it takes a bit of pressure off him, and now he can relax and just play his game.
Well,
as
every
you
team
see.
does have to spread the goals out, don't you? And this is the thing, especially in the midfield, is where I think we need a few more goals, because I don't want
Yeah,
to ask for too much, because you can't be greedy. But from Morgan, obviously you're going to get loads of assists. We already know that. We know he's going to find his form again very soon, and probably after the international break, I think he'll find his form. And a good home game against Burnley will really get him started for me. But the likes of Mangala, you want to see him scoring a couple, because he had a couple of good goals last year. Yates, you want to see him scoring a couple of headers. Sangare, he's a
expect him to
midfielder
wallop
that
it.
will score. He's a number
Yeah,
6 that will get you goals, which is crazy to think.
he's got a good shot on him, hasn't he? From
Yeah,
what I've
so let's
seen.
talk about him then. Let's talk, because we kind of said we talk about
Mm.
the transfer window. What do you think to the signing of Sangare then? Because we didn't think it had happened. I don't think many people thought it would happen. It was a bit of a pipe dream,
Well,
but
it was either Johnson goes and you try and get Sangari and take that gamble, or you don't get him and Johnson maybe goes anyway. So it's a nice little gamble, isn't it? But I think he's going to be a beast. He's got every attribute that we've been missing, hasn't he? He's that big, sturdy guy. He can pass a ball, he can tackle, he can win it, he can keep hold of possession, and he can just take the pressure off and spread the ball around, can't he? He just looks sort of like the all-round midfielder, doesn't he? And obviously, if he can add a few goals to his game as well, which he has with previous teams, he did for Ivory Coast, didn't he? He scored their goal. Then we've got one hell of a player. He just looks a class above what we've got in, and that's no disrespect to anyone else. He just looks like he can raise that bar, doesn't he? And hopefully Yates can learn from him and can only be good for the squad, can't it?
yeah, and in fact, I'll get a quote from Steve Cooper earlier in the week, so I'm just going to read it for you now. He said about the new signings, he said, "We've had great support from the owner. It is on us now. We have to think about how we want the team to look. We can play with different formations. We played with a back three at Chelsea, and that was the right plan. In other games, it might not have been. Now we have the variety to become a flexible team. I want us to be able to tweak our tactics. If you're playing in a back three, you can turn into a back four without even knowing it, and vice versa. That is the modern way now. But to do that, you need players who can be flexible in what areas of the pitch they can play in." Now, that's really interesting, because I've said it for quite some time, because obviously people get frustrated when there's games where you're playing a back five against teams like Sheffield United, and people go, "Why are you doing that?" They don't really pose that much of a threat. But it's obvious that Cooper doesn't want to play in that way. He wants to be more flexible, as he says, and be able to just switch in and out of formations really fluidly, if you will. So obviously bringing in players like Sangare, who kind of allows you to lessen the amount of personnel you need in the midfield and increase your attacking duties, gives him that flexibility. So not only obviously, as you highlight, Sangare a quality player, but not just Sangare, but others as well, like Dominguez and new signs that they brought in, maybe even Brandon Aguilera, because he's young and he's going to get some involvement. They offer him that versatility. So do you think now, with these kind of staple signings of Dominguez and Sangare specifically, do you think that will allow him to maybe look at something like a 4-2-3-1, or a
Yeah,
4-3-3 a little
for
bit
at the
more?
back, sure. Um, I think it's designed for us to have a bit more possession, is it? And to be a bit more attacking. Like if we look at Dominguez, he's supposed to be a guy who will push you further up the field. He'll press the ball, which will allow you to come out rather than sitting so deep. So I think that's what Cooper's got in mind. And for me, I don't mind swapping Freuler for Dominguez. I think that's a bargain, really, when you think about it. If it's true what they say about Dominguez, he's supposed to be an absolute beast with what he does. I just think it'll allow us to be a bit more positive rather than sitting back and just counter-attacking. Rather than doing that, we can actually have some possession, create some attacks, keep hold of the ball, spread it around a bit, and just push forward, not sit so deep. So obviously, as I said earlier, it's not necessarily going to be instant. It's going to take time to incorporate these new signings and put that into action. I don't think it's an overnight thing, and there's going to be times we're going to get frustrated and that, but we've just got to be patient with what Cooper's going to try and do. We shall see, won't we? Positive though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that. Pardon me. I think it's been a window where last year we brought in a few good players, and we were kind of excited. But the amount of players we brought in was obviously a little bit mind-boggling. This year, we've still brought in quite a lot, but we've been really sensible. And I'd say that every player for me is actually one that I'm looking forward to see more of. I'm a bit, good. We couldn't get rid of a couple of, other players, and it looks like at the time of recording we're going to lose Biancone on a permanent deal, which is interesting. Permanent, after paying his wages for a year with the ACL, and to, not see him coming back. But for me now, if the club don't see him, and this is the same for other players as well.
I would have liked to have seen him, if I'm honest, Jay.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, we only see him on highlights reels, because we can't really see him much. We've seen him in pre-season. We don't really know how he plays. And if Steve Cooper sees him 6 days a week in training and he says, look, he's not at this level now, and he doesn't feel he's going to be at that level, because, by the way, if you're 22, 23, whatever his age is, and you've just done your ACL, it's a bad time to do it. And if Cooper thinks, right, look, he wasn't really at that level then, and now he's done his ACL, he's not at this level now, is there much point in keeping him and hoping that he does better in the future? Because I think we've held on to too many players.
I'm guessing it's where he's in the pecking order, because obviously we brought 2 new centre-backs in. Obviously, you've got Felipe, Niakate, Worrell, McKenna, the 2 new boys. So technically, he was a centre-back that can play right-back. Well, right-back's pretty well covered, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where would he fit in? So on that aspect, I totally understand it. You've got to trim the squad. We're only allowed 25. He's not even under the threshold anymore, is it? So
we're going to have a lot of fullbacks. We're going to have a lot of fullbacks in the 25.
Yeah, I mean, Williams, I don't think he's going to get as much game time now, is he? The only signing for me that I'm a bit, I won't call it not thrilled on, and I'll back him and he'll get my support, is Tavares. I'm a bit on the fence with him. You know what I mean? Because how we ripped him apart, I know you can't necessarily judge him on that, but we ripped him apart when we was a championship. So, okay, he's had a good season on loan at Marseille, and he's putting the red shirt on. So I will support him and I will back him, and I really hope he does well. I'm just a bit on the fence about him out of all our signings, if I'm honest.
Well, he did okay against Chelsea. It was a brief cameo, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to, judge his entire Forest future off that.
No.
But I'm also, as you say, not going to judge it based off a cup draw that we had 2 years ago, because in 2 years, a player can change exponentially. We saw it with Brennan. He went from playing for Lincoln to playing in the Premier League with Forest. So 2 years can change a player massively in any way. I'll back him. I'll back all of the new signings.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the new centre-backs bring, because another interesting thing as you talk about 25-man is neither of them need to be registered. So I'm guessing that if Biancone is leaving, that the logic might be that Scott McKenna stays, because you've not sold him. You're not going to sell him realistically. So I think that McKenna will stay, because, again, it's that depth, isn't it? You've got the 2 new boys that don't need to be registered, and then you've still got the same centre-back depth you had before. Obviously, you're going to have a couple of fullbacks in there. You're going to have, I'm going to say it's probably Nico, Aurier, Montiel, and Aina. So you've got, let's try and do a number count now, shall we? We can try.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. So you've got your centre-backs, Niakate, Felipe, Worrell, Murillo, Omobamidele, McKenna, and Bolly.
Yeah.
Right? That's 7.
6 or 7. Yeah.
6 or 7. So let's say 7, right? You've got 4 fullbacks, so that's 11. You're going to have 3 goalkeepers.
You've got 5 with Williams, haven't you?
Aurier, Montiel, Aina,
Tavares,
Williams. Yeah, so 5. So you've got 12 players there. You're going to have what? 3 goalkeepers, I'm guessing? Or keep George Shelby?
And I think Horvath wants to go, doesn't he?
Well, he needs to, for me, really. But, Hennessy's injured again. So he's, I don't know what the situation is.
Shelby's under 21, isn't it? So
Shelby's under 21.
Bring him in as a third if you needed to. So I imagine it'll still be Hennessy, won't it? And then obviously Turner and the new guy.
So I'm going to say, so let's put in 2 goalkeepers, right? Let's say they keep George Shelby. We'll put in 2 goalkeepers now, right? So you've got 14 players so far. Your 5 fullbacks, 7 centre backs.
That's without midfield.
Yeah.
Not an easy job, is it?
No, this is it. I'm glad I'm not doing that. So what? We've got 14 so far, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So then your midfielders, Dominguez, Sangare, Aguilera doesn't need to be registered, so that's fine. Gibbs White, Ryan Yates, Orel Mangala.
What I will say is, though, don't forget Murillo and the other guy don't need to be registered, so you could technically take 2 spaces off that.
No, I think, isn't that without? Or is it? Or did I include them as well?
I believe you can include them in. I could be wrong, but
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, cool. So
5. So go
5.
again. 5.
So we've got 5 fullbacks, 5 centre backs,
Yep.
2 goalkeepers.
Yep.
So 12 at the moment, and
Yep.
then Yates, Mangala, Sangare, Dominguez, Gibbs White,
Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, you
Langer,
could put him
21.
in there. No, he's 22, I think, or 23.
So you've got Langer then.
So then, yeah, so that's your midfielders then. And then that's what, 18? That'd make it. And then Origi, Taiwo. There's quite a lot of space, actually. Looking at it, there's actually quite a good amount of space.
Well, hopefully,
we're probably missing out players.
Dennis is off, isn't he? We believe.
Yeah, Dennis is off to Turkey. So ignore our maths, and in fact, ignore everything we just said in the last 2 minutes. We've got space. Yeah, ignore my maths, right? Because I think we've got space. But obviously, we're going to have quite a few midfielders, and the benefit of it is it looks like there's going to be at least 3 or 4 players in the team that don't actually need to be registered, which is really helpful because it just gives you that depth, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, because our old Danilo now. How old's he?
22, isn't he? 23.
Right,
oh yeah, so Danilo, of course. How do we forget Danilo in the midfielders?
Yeah. So you've got him.
Yeah,
it's a nice problem to have. Let's put it like that.
That's actually a good point because my mate messaged me and he sent me a tweet by this guy. I think it's called I can't remember, Sarcastic Forest or something.
Yeah, I've seen him.
You seen it? And he was like, yeah, and he's like, all these midfielders. Imagine being Cooper having to pick that, but we are so lucky to be in a position where we've got a headache thinking about what midfield we're going to play or what team we're going to field. And we're lucky that Cooper's got even more of a problem with that because imagine being in a situation where you go, there's only really 3 options I can think of. Because last year, we kind of had that.
Like we were last season, we were quite limited at, especially first 6 months of the season, weren't we, till January? We was, or a few months, we were quite limited on who we can actually play. And then obviously we got Danilo, didn't we? And,
yeah, it's
a nice problem. It's a positive. Strength in depth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we've been lacking for quite a while. All last season, we didn't really have the strength in depth, did we?
And now we've got that strength in depth. Again, you can have that headache, and it's a good headache if you like, even though it's a bit of an oxymoron. But you can have that headache. You can afford to, you can afford to lose a player if you like through an injury, and you'd still have a good quality depth there, which is really important because it's not just about
injuries. Look at the amount of injuries we had last season. That could have cost us relegation, couldn't it? We could have been relegated just merely down to injuries and not being able to really cover with sufficient quality. Now, not that I want us to get injuries, but now we haven't got that worry so much. Hopefully, we have a bit more luck with staying injury free, and then we've got the quality to come in next man up, so to speak, to cover.
Yeah, so we've got that's it. A lot of good depth. We've got a good first team. I would say there's probably 4 or 5 teams that are worse than us, quality-wise, at the moment. Obviously, things can change, but
you look at it. Let's list the teams. You've got Luton, Sheffield United. I'd even put Burnley in there because I think Burnley off their side still championship quality. You've got Wolves, Everton. I think Bournemouth are stronger than you think. I'm like that with Bournemouth.
I like Bournemouth. I think they'll do well.
Yeah, I think once their players gel, who else you got?
Fulham, I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, because their best midfielder still wants to leave, done in January, still wants to go to Bayern.
And then Mitrovic is gone.
Yeah.
So
we've got to look for mid-table, haven't we? We've got to look mid-table.
And also realistically as well, with the amount of money that we've spent, at some point we do have to be looking at that mid-table, because I'm not just saying it because we're in the second season and look, we've obviously got good players in. We should be looking at that
Yeah.
now because of that. I'm saying it also because we've spent a lot of money, and realistically, Marinakis will want a return on his investment and deserves a return on his investment because of the money that he's put in. And as it says in the title of the podcast, and I'm going to ask you the question now, is Steve Cooper spoilt for choice now?
I'm not sure that's the correct terminology. Like, he's got the strength in depth now that he didn't have before. So I wouldn't necessarily say spoilt for choice. Should we have had that quality in before? Yeah, because if you think about it, we signed 30 players, but the quality was sort of random, wasn't it? Whether they were good or not. And obviously injuries dictated a lot. So I wouldn't necessarily call it spoiled for choice. I'd just say, we've had an upgrade on quality, and it's, as I say, a nice problem to have. It's about time we had the strength in depth. And if we're going to push on and build, you've got to bring equal or better to what you've already got, haven't you?
And you've got to have that competition, because even Taiwo now has got not competition from Chris Wood, really. Well, I suppose he still will, but the competition he's got is from a proven Premier League goal scorer who arguably won Liverpool the Champions League.
Yeah.
So, you've got that quality now.
Toes, isn't it, basically? And that's what you want. You don't want people getting too relaxed, going, oh, well, I'm the only one there, so I know I've got my place. And that is what, for example, people like Gibbs White knew. They've got no one to challenge him. That was how it was last season now. And because Origi, he can play across the front three, can't he? So, he's versatile. And that's what I think we've got as well with the new squad members. They're all versatile. They can play different positions. So, as you say, it's competition, isn't it?
Massive competition. And that's what you want, though, in a team. So it's not just about depth. It's not just about first team quality. It's about competition. If you have to spend £4 or £5 million on a player, or £15 million on a player to provide that competition, then you've got to do it, because you bring another player to the next level and you provide better depth, and you get some goals from somewhere else, or you get better defense from somewhere else. So there's a lot of arguments for it. And I think bringing in Divock Origi was a good choice. It's only on loan at the moment, but it could be permanent at the end of it. So for FFP, we've done business sensibly.
£4.5 million, that's an absolute snip. You consider we paid what with the loan fee for Wood, 19 million. You do the maths. Come on.
We paid 4 million just as a loan fee to bring
That's
in.
what I'm saying. 19 altogether. So with a 15 million sign on and the loan fee. So you do the maths. When you're getting someone of Origi's standard, let's be honest, he's better than Wood, and that's no disrespect to Chris Wood. He just is. So.
But also at the same time, I would like to see Chris Wood.
I want him to do well.
Divock, absolutely. But I'd like to see him seeing Divock Origi coming in as like you're taking you're going to try and take my place now, wherever my place may be, or you're trying to get on the first team now. And I'm sure Chris Wood, and he does absolutely want Forest to do well, and he's a passionate player, and he does love Forest. I do believe that. But at the same time, I do think that he will be wanting to be, a little bit selfish and say, look, that's my place.
Okay. Just looking at it now before the season goes, put your strikers in order of where you would place them in terms of sort of the order of who's first, who's second, who's third. Because we've got technically three strikers now, haven't we? I know
just because I know, I don't think that Chris Wood suits how we play at the moment, and I don't know if he ever really will. He's going to be at the bottom of my three. And I know we haven't seen Origi start, but I've seen Origi play more than I've seen Chris Wood play. And I think Origi will suit us more than Chris Wood does. But if you're going to go on based on proven how he's done for Forest, he's got 2 goals in 9 games, which isn't awful, but it's not great. Then you're going to go, well, you're going to say Chris Wood second, aren't you? But I just don't think he's going to fit in with us. So Taiwo first, Origi second, Chris Wood third.
And you've got to remember with Origi, he can play out wide as well if need be. So he's always got that as well. Not just as a striker, he can play out wide.
And that's important in Cooper's tactics, because sometimes he doesn't play a forward how they're meant to be played in a way, or even with Johnson, you kind of sometimes were thinking, where are you actually playing?
Yeah.
As he said earlier, when we spoke about it, offers him that versatility, offers him more options, and by spoiled for choice, I more mean, as you say, has he just got more choice than last
The
season?
level of quality is up, hasn't it? It's been an upgrade. Let's be honest. Yes, we've lost Johnson, but in terms of quality, we've upgraded the squad massively. We've sacrificed one player to be able to upgrade. So
sometimes you just have to do that, and that is football. But as long as you don't come to us and
I'm
score
not
a hat
too,
trick,
I'm not too upset. I'm quite happy with what's come in, to be fair. So.
With great signings. So ahead of further fixtures, then make sure you join my stream, which will be on Sunday. But this Sunday, if you're listening now on the first episode stream, this Sunday, I don't know what day it'll be actually. I'll try and get a date, but it is this Sunday anyway. If you're listening to episode 1 on the week 17th. So if you're watching on Sunday the 17th, we're going to be doing a Burnley pre-match review. It'll start at 7:00 until 7:30. It's only half an hour, but it'll just be before the rugby, so I don't want to interfere with that. But 7:30 will be the time it finishes. 7:00 the time it starts. If you're looking to talk a little bit more about Burnley and you want to perhaps join me and have a chat, as I say, Sunday 7:00. But that was the first episode of We All Follow the Forest podcast. I really appreciate you all tuning in. Obviously, at the moment, the template of how it looks and the intro and things, it will all change a little bit. It's all a little bit temporary and fast moving. It's the start. So bear with us. Any suggestions, any feedback, we love that. And if you want to come and join and chat with us on the panel, then just drop me an inbox on or a comment on YouTube, or an inbox on Instagram, which is Jamie_Martin_journalist. Wherever you can find me, just drop me a message or speak to me if you see me in public, and I'd be more than happy to have you join us on the streams and the podcast. So thank you for listening. That was episode 1 of We All Follow the Forest podcast. We spoke about everything from Brennan Johnson to Anthony Elanga, Taiwo Awoniyi to Divock Origi, and all the latest on summer transfer signings. That was me and Lee, Megaphone Man. Great speaking to you all. Take care, and we'll see you for the next episode next Wednesday at 3.